We're here today to see Tony Nijhuis. He's brought his latest design, which is the Spitfire MK V. It's a 70-inch span model. It weighs 15 pounds with a 120 4-stroke for power. We'll have a chat with him and watch it flying. So a brand new Spitfire, but you've already got several Spitfire designs in the plan range. So what's the rationale behind this design?
Well, this is the fourth enlargement of a 30-inch Spitfire that I did probably about 5-6 years ago for the magazine, which was electric powered, and with a 30-inch it was very small and flittery. So what we've done is really just go up through the ranges, and I think about 3-4 years ago we did a 45-inch one for the special, which was very, very nice, flew very, very well. And again, as a model gets larger, it flies better. So as we start to push towards the sort of the 50s and the 60s, which we did in sort of 2008 with the Spitfire over there, that flew very, very well. So the sort of natural progression, I think, is to sort of go slightly larger, because the expectations of people nowadays, they enjoy a bigger aircraft. Bigger aircraft do fly better. And motors are commonly available now of the sort of the 120 size, and people are comfortable with them.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got a 120 4-stroke in there.
A 120 4-stroke, it's an ASP, and we've converted that to petrol. Main reason behind that is to sort of ruin a lovely paint scheme with glow fuel, which always seems to happen. The chances of doing that, I just thought, if we can go to petrol, then it will be sort of so much better. And the conversion is from Just Engines, and they do a lovely little conversion unit for around about the £50 mark, which takes a standard glow plug engine and converts it to petrol.
So being petrol, it's far more fuel efficient as well then?
Very much so, yes. We have normally on a 4-stroke glow, you're looking at about 2.5 turns open. This is barely half a turn open, so you can imagine it's at least sort of, you know, 2/3 more efficient. So the tank in there, which is around about 30-ounce tank, will probably last 45 minutes.
Talk me through what you've done there. Just a sprayed on.
Yes, as you start to get slightly larger with aircraft, it's better to go for a sort of a more durable finish. Up to around 50-60 inch film covering is fine. But this is glass cloth epoxy from Fibertech. It takes a little bit of time to apply, but it does give a very, very sort of hard, almost eggshell finish, very ding proof basically. So yep, that's been put on, and then we've sort of done some panel line details using some very fine tape.
I like the way you do it, because it's actually a raised edge, but it's very effective, isn't it?
Yes, it just sort of picks up the sort of the panel edges. There's two ways you can do that. You can either leave the tape on and paint over it, or you can actually paint, then take the tape off, so it's a sunken edge basically. So there are two options.
So let's just talk through some of the mechanics, Tony, because just in terms of servos and size of the model, is standard servos all round?
Yeah, pretty much so. They're standard size servos, but what we have is sort of using 6 kilograms, so they're high torque. Right. Standard servos for the ailerons, and one for the elevator. I think we've got a 4.5 kilogram servo for the rudder, and standard for the for the flaps as well. Okay, and in terms of overall weight, it's about 15 pounds. This one weighs about 14.5. As models get larger, the poundage increases exponentially. So we've got the 62 over there, which sort of weighs about 6.5 pounds. You've got a 72-inch here that is over double the weight. And you think of it and you think, oh, that's not quite right. But what I've done here is basically sort of build something without looking at the weight. You know, you can save probably sort of 3, 4, maybe even 5 pounds, and I'm sure the builders out there probably will want to save that sort of weight on it. But I built it on the premise that when people build it, if they can't hit 15 pounds, then they've done something wrong. But however, it flies very, very well at 15 pounds, and it has especially on a windy day, it has the authority to sort of move through the air very, very well.
Yeah. Well, I know some flyers who build a 70-inch warbird and they add weight to get it up to 15 pounds because they know a 15-pound warbird 70-inch span will fly well. So,
absolutely, yeah. The weight is, we've had to add about 1.5 pounds of lead at the nose, which for a Spitfire is what you would expect to do anyway. The radio's pushed hard up the front here, and because we've got a petrol engine, we've got an ignition system, so we've got 2 sets of batteries right in the nose there, and the lead sits effectively across the top there. So even with a heavy 4-stroke engine, we still had to add some lead to the nose.
Talk me through the construction, Tony. Obviously it's balsa and ply.
Yeah.
If people want to, they can purchase the CNC parts.
Yep,
and
indeed.
Yeah,
yeah. Very similar to the 62-inch Spitfire, as I said, which was out three odd years ago. But what I've done here is really just take the Mark 9 Spitfire in 62-inch and turn it into a sort of a Mark 5, which has subtle differences, but the main difference is that it's got a built-up tailplane, built-up rudder and fin, open structure on there, so effectively it is actually very much of a true scale. The other slight difference is that there is actually a vac form cowl on this, and the way it's designed is it's a half cowl, so you can actually sort of take the bottom of the cowl away to access the motor for testing, if you want to sort of test the motor, without having to take the whole spinner off and the prop off, which is an absolute nightmare. So, which is a pickup really from the top flight, the giant scale, which they tend to do that, which is a very good idea. The model was actually based on a current flying Spitfire, which is owned by Guy Black. Guy is a friend of a friend who when I said to him, I'd quite like to do your Spitfire for the 70th anniversary, and he was quite pleased, I think, that someone was going to do it. And he popped in a few weeks ago just to see the progress, and was quite enthralled, I think, with a model, with a guy who owns a Spitfire and then looks at a model, and you can see the enthusiasm for Spitfires, for models and for full size. So yeah, he was very pleased with it, and explained about certain things on his particular aircraft. So I tried to pick up on a lot of these things, like the little decal to the side there, which basically I took a picture with a high resolution digital camera of his one, and got them made up into a decal from Pyramid Models. So again, I showed Guy that, and he was absolutely enthused that we actually managed to make a decal from a photograph.
Okay, Tony, you've just told me something interesting about the paint colours for the model, and how you got the precise colour here, which is precise, isn't it?
It is precise, yes. The colour for the dark earth and the green were actually taken from paint chits from an original paint book chart for the Spitfire, dating back to the 40s. So they were mixed based on those colours. But what was interesting, of course, is the fact that, what I didn't quite realise, is that a lot of the Airfix paints are scaled, and what they mean by that is that they actually scale the colours to a lighter or darker effect. So when you're painting a very small, 1/72nd Airfix model, at that distance you're looking at, it looks authentic. And that was an interesting conversation I had with an Airfix rep some time ago. So although this is an authentic colour scheme, it may not look right when you compare it against the full size. So it's quite an interesting setup, and I think Guy Black told me about that as well. Said be careful because it will look slightly different.
So the full size machine would look a bit darker.
It would probably look darker, and of course the sort of transition between the green and the brown is obviously closer on the model, where it's further apart on the full size. So it will look different. Although if you put the aircraft against each other, you'd say, yep, that's definitely the same green and that's definitely the same brown.
And you mentioned the little strakes, as I would call them, on the wing here, the two parallel strengthening pieces that I must admit I hadn't noticed them on the Mark V Spitfire before. But tell us about those.
Well, on the Mark V, apparently, again according to Guy, that they used to have problems with because the wheel well was directly underneath it, so you only had effectively a single skin over the top, it needed strengthening. I think of two reasons. One, when you were actually flying the aircraft, that there was a chance of it buckling and creasing around that, but I think there was another chance of the flight team and the engineers looking after the model, the full size, standing on a very weak point. Right. So I think they were the two options why they put these sort of strengthening bars across the top.
Oh, okay. It's something a lot of modelers probably wouldn't pick up on, but
yeah.
Okay. In the meantime, we better fly it, haven't we?
Spot on.